Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of Stronghold Sessions. Today we have Richard McKinney. Brother, assalamu alaikum. How you doing today?
Walaikum assalam. How are you? Alhamdulillah, man. Alhamdulillah.
Outstanding. Alhamdulillah. So let's just get into it. What I wanted to talk to you about is, obviously, if you don't know who this guy is, he's Richard McKinney, the one that actually made plans and actually went into recon a mosque, quite frankly, just to blow it up. He didn't understand a lot about who Muslims were. He thought that Islam didn't belong in America, and we're going to get to the bottom of that. So let's get into the first question. First question that I have for you, Richard, is what was your breaking point? Like, what was the turning point that led you from planning to blow up a mosque to actually walking inside one? Take us through that.
So, well, I did several tours in the Middle East and Afghanistan, and had witnessed a lot of the actions of the people, and I didn't like it. Okay, of course, me being kind of ethnocentric, right? That American way is the best way, and if you're not acting that way, you're acting wrong, kind of mentality, right? I didn't really like the way I was treated, but then again, I didn't look at it from actually their point of view either. And when I was injured and got caught up in an explosion and was medically retired after that. I was already over 20 years anyway, and they just medically retired me. But I came home, right? And I used to make the joke that, military doesn't want me anymore. They kicked me out. That's why I told people they kicked me out. I was, you get kicked out, man? Would you get dishonorable? I said, no, man, I got retired. They made me retire. They kicked me out. But when I came home, man, I started noticing all of these Muslims. And mainly it was the women at first, because they're the ones that stand out, right? Wearing hijab and all that. And I'm like, what is going on, man? Why are these people in my country, right? And I'm like, no, this is not going to happen, man. I've seen the way they live. I've seen the way they pursue things. I'm not going to have this, man. I am going to do something about it. And I thought about it. I said, I know it's not going to necessarily work out for me, but I'm going to get rid of these people. Meaning that I knew I would get caught.
You gave up, and you just...
I said, the only way is to eliminate them. That's it. So I came up with a plan. I knew how to, because of knowledge I learned while I was in Iraq, I learned how to make an IED, right? And that's what I did. I put that plan into play. And it was over the course of about 2.5, 3 years. I took my time. I was very, very patient about it because I knew they weren't going anywhere, unfortunately. And I didn't want to raise any red flags because, man, why is this guy buying all this stuff? All of a sudden, you know, you got a cart full of pipes and wires, and what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, basically, I was one of those guys that I've seen enough movies to know that you don't do all of this at once, because then the authorities are going to come into play, right? So I was like, okay, that's fine. I at least wanted to carry out my plan. I knew I would get caught. I had no doubt, because I'm not. You don't get away with stuff like that. You know, you don't get away with blowing up a building. It just doesn't happen, man. But I was willing to accept that because I saw it as a mission for my country.
You saw like the enemy that you were facing in the Middle East on home ground, and no, I know how y'all act over there, and you're going to bring that here? No. So that's
Everybody's
the basic mindset.
Yeah. Everybody. That's the way I saw it, right? And I don't know. I don't flying around here.
Sleeper cell fly. Sleeper cell fly.
Super cell fly, yeah, for real. They are like super cells. Yeah, sleeper cells. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I saw it as me confronting the enemy on my turf. You know, my country. You know, my two questions for people that were not from here, because I didn't care if you were white, black, brown. I didn't care if you were purple color. If you were an American, you're good to go. If you're not, why are you here and when are you leaving?
Right.
That's the way I conducted everything, right? And I would see people in supermarkets, Walmarts, women, and I would just walk by them and just say disgusting things. Just really it's shameful the way I acted. But I just wanted them to know that I wasn't going to put up with it. But these things are against the law.
Yeah.
Okay. They are. And we have a law, and that's what makes us a civilized culture, is that in fact we have laws. I don't like the way they're carried out all the time, but that's another story for another time. But so I knew what I was doing was against the law, but I knew it was the right thing to do. Right. If that makes any sense. It's like, know, just because it ain't right, don't necessarily make it wrong. Was my mentality, right?
Yeah, Mac, take me through your breaking point, though. The breaking point where you were just like, that's it. I'm doing it. This plan is put into, I'm going to make this happen. I don't care. I mean, like, was it an event? Is it something that you saw on the news?
It wasn't. This was like a slow and steady plan. And I was seriously flying under the radar, man. Absolutely nobody knew what I was doing. Everybody that knew me knew I hated Muslims, period. But nobody knew that I was going to go this far, right? My wife didn't even know until the FBI showed up at the house.
Jeez.
She had no idea. She was totally blown away. You know, I had it that way for a reason. Number one, I didn't want to involve anybody because that's a loose end. Number two, I didn't want to involve anybody because I didn't want anybody else to get repercussions from it. I was willing to shoulder this burden all by myself.
You're doing a solo mission.
Yeah, that's it. It was my last one. It was my last one because I knew that I'd be caught. I knew I would end up on a table with a needle in my arm eventually, because that's the law, right?
Right.
But it was okay because I'd have my day to make that statement.
Do you think that you were sending a message to other Muslims by doing this? Like, hey, there are American citizens here that are ex-military that will hand your ass back to you. So be careful because there are people like us in America.
That's right. I wasn't just talking the talk. I was going to do the walk. Right. My hatred was at a whole other level.
Wow. Let's just shift gears to when you broke, to when you actually entered the masjid. So when you first met the Muslims at the mosque, When I don't know, when you went into the first time, were you doing recon or were you there to plant?
Yeah, a lot of people think that I was doing a recon, right? But I'd already done that. The bomb was going to be on the outside of the building, and I'd already picked the place. It was perfect. I think, I'm not an expert at this, but I think it would have been a really good place. I think it would have got the most done. And there was a mixture of chemicals. I can't really talk about what it was, but
yeah, get me shut down. Yeah.
And me in jail. That was a deal that I made with the FBI. So,
right.
but it would have. I think it would have done the best. But I went in because what happened was there was an interaction between me and my daughter. Okay, and this little girl was my life, man. I loved her so deeply, man. I still do. She's an adult now, and I'm just here for gas money. But it's okay. Actually, she's a good girl, man. She is getting ready to go to law school.
Oh, good.
Yeah. She's awesome, man. She's awesome. But she come home one day, and she had told me about this experience she had in school, and she was confused, right? So there was this Muslim little boy in her class, and his mom came to pick him up for something, doctor's appointment or something, right? And she came to the class, actually, which really is not done that. Usually you pick him up in the office, but the mom actually came to the class to get him, and she was dressed from head to toe. My daughter was explaining this to me, and I was like, what? And she said, yeah, man, you could only see this much of her face, and that was it. And I was like, oh no. And I just went off. I went on a tangent, started saying all kinds of nasty things.
They're in our schools now.
Yeah. And of course they would be, right? But I mean, the children, but I didn't conceive that. And I saw it as a failure on my part to protect my family from, as I called them, these future suicide bombers, right? Future terrorists. Right. And my daughter just looked at me, because you know how children are, man. Man, God bless them so much, man. They have no prejudice, right? Because they don't understand it. It's just a person, and but society teaches prejudice. That's a problem what we have. And she looked at me like I was absolutely insane. Well, depending on who you ask, there's a little truth to that, but that's, like I said, that's another story. So I went to my room, and I just sat on the bed and I cried, man. I cried because, I failed as a dad. I failed as a husband. I said, no, I really got to do this. But that was the first time that I'd even thought that this involves somebody else besides me. Didn't even conceive. This is how selfish I was. Didn't even think about my family being touched by this. Didn't even think of that, right? And when I found that out, I said, you know what? There's a lot more people that don't understand what I'm talking about. I know that there's a lot of ignorance in the world. And there is, right. Truthfully, but I was looking at it on the other side, and I says, I got to get tangible proof for these people. I know I'm right, but I got to get tangible proof so I can prove to these people that what I'm doing, even though it's against the law, is the right thing to do. So,
because that you'd have a lot of Americans that would be like, good job. Well done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was thinking like a decade later, after my death, that they'd build a statue to me and stuff. Really, I honestly
name a school after you or something.
Exactly, man. Exactly. But so where am I going to get the proof at? Go to the source. So I went there as kind of like undercover, just somebody who wanted to learn a little bit more about Islam. Which really is not a lie, because that's really why I was there. I wanted to learn more so I could show everybody that you guys are evil. That's what I was trying to do. so I go there, and I was like, I don't know. I started interacting with everybody, and it changed from there.
What was the first guy? Was it a guy that met you at the door, or were you just standing around like, "Hey, what's up?" What was the first interaction that you had?
Well, so I walk in the door, and I got there early. I knew how Friday. I got there on a Friday. I knew their schedule. I knew how it works. Right, I spent enough time around them overseas, and I knew that was probably when most of them would be there. So my plan was actually during Ramadan, because I understood Ramadan, was I was gonna detonate the explosive during Ramadan on a Friday, because everybody is there. I mean, you got people praying out in the hallways, right? I mean, mosques are packed, right? It's like Christmas mass for the Catholics, right?
Yep.
And so I went there on Friday. It wasn't Ramadan yet. The bomb was done. I was just waiting for Ramadan. And I walk in and I look around, and off to my left was the shoe room, and there's a guy there. He was taking off his shoes, African-American guy. And he actually was the one who did the call to prayer. That was his thing, right? And he looked at me and I looked at him, and I smiled, like I said, man, I'm playing this off, right? And I smiled and I said, "How you doing?" He goes, "Alhamdulillah." I knew what that meant, but I was like, okay, good, right, good for you.
He's speaking the language of the enemy.
Yeah,
How dare he?
Yeah, it's code. So as he says, "Can I help you?" Because he knew I was kind of like, I looked lost, right? And I said, "Yeah, I want you to teach me about Islam." He's like, "How long you got?" I said, "I got a couple hours." He said, "Well, we'll give it a shot." He kind of laughed, right? He said, "Well, we'll give it a shot." And he handed me some pamphlets and took me to the prayer room and sat me back on the benches, which I used to tell people that, everybody sits on the floor except for maybe, people with, have a hard time getting up or down, elderly people, or like me after leg day. That's what I would tell them. I would sit on the bench after leg day, right?
Yeah.
I'm sitting there waiting for everything to happen. Everybody's coming in. People come up and they start shaking my hand, and a couple guys even gave me a hug. And I was like, I'm not Muslim. That's okay, brother. It's okay. Glad you could be here. Right. So I listened to the khutbah, right, and it was nice. Oh yeah, man. It talked about sunshine and rainbows, right? Because I was there. That's what I thought, right? That's what I'm thinking, right? These people just clean this up because I'm here. Yeah, there's going to be a sword to my throat in the basement after this is all over.
When's the real khutbah going to happen?
Yeah.
I know this one isn't it. This is the diet one.
Yeah. So afterwards, I get introduced to people and everything, and they asked me questions, and I told them, I said, "Yeah, I'm really curious, man. I really want to know more about your religion." I said I got to see it firsthand, but it was really confusing when I saw it in actual quote unquote Muslim countries, and so I'm just wanting a little bit of explanation, a little bit of learning. I said, "Oh, okay, brother, okay, no problem." So they set me on a couch in their library, okay. And another brother came in, younger African-American guy came in and sat down, started talking to me, and asked me, "You ever read the Quran?" And inside, I'm keeping it in. It's hard, man, but I'm keeping it in, because I wanted to say, "Really?"
Did you think they were going to lock the door and that's when your head was going to pop off?
Yeah. Is this how it goes down? Yeah, exactly. And so he goes over and he grabs a Quran off the shelf and he hands it to me. He says, "Here, I want you to do this. I want you to take this Quran. I want you to read it. Come back when you got questions." And that's what I tell Muslims today about people that, that are not Muslims, don't, practice Islam or whatever. Hand them a Quran and tell them to find you when they got questions.
Absolutely.
And that's the best form of dawah I can even ever think of, right?
It is. It is because, just going off on a side note is when I was in maximum security prison and I was given a Quran for the first time, honestly, I thought it was going to be some 1001 Arabian Nights type of stuff, and and Aladdin went through Persia, and he found a cave and stuff like that. But when I picked up the Quran for the first time, I went to the index, and I want to know names, events, stories, and I didn't find any of that Aladdin stuff and 1001 Arabian Nights, Moses, Jesus, Abraham, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what? Okay, and that in itself grew my curiosity to want to read the book, actually. So you're right. Continue, brother.
Yeah, I did just that because this was important. I really wasn't doing anything else at the time anyway, so I could dedicate 24/7 on this project, right? And I did, because I knew this was one of the last things I'm going to do in this world, right? I want to make it right. I got to come up with this information. And I'm reading, and I find stuff. I come across stuff. Wait a minute. There it is. This is what I need right here. So I go run back to the mosque, right? Ask them. And they explain it to me, right? Well, I didn't take what they had to say as 100% true, but it gave me a starting point for me to research things, right? So as I did that and come across a commentary, I found a commentary to the Quran at the library, which was really good. It all helped. And then not contextualizing verses, which a lot of people do, with all the books, actually. It's all contextualization. They take a verse and they make a whole story out of one verse, and they don't even, they miss everything, right? And of course, that's what I was doing. I was seeing this verse, and I was like, yep, that's it right there. But then they'd explain it to me. I'd go back and research it. I'd look at back then they still had the ugly videos on YouTube, right? Yeah. So I would look at the bad and the good on this subject, negative and positive. And over time, I started knowing or started picking up that the negative things that were being said about what I was particularly looking at really didn't come from a foundation of knowledge. It came more from a foundation of hatred. Well, that brings emotion into the equation, and that invalidates everything, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm not a super smart person, man, but I do understand people more than I'd like most of the time, but I do understand people. And I know when you bring emotion into it, man, it defeats everything that you're doing. That's why I tell brothers a lot of times, man, calm down. When you're explaining yourself, calm down.
Right.
And so I started picking up some things, and I started really liking things, and things that I was reading. I wasn't going off. Well, okay, point blank. Really, my impression up to this point was cultural Islam, not
of course.
Islam. Okay, and I was basing it all off a cultural thing, plus things that are happening in the news, and I mean, of course, media. There's not anybody in this world that can't say that their opinions are not affected somewhat by media.
Absolutely.
You can't, right?
And it's all emotional and little facts.
Exactly. But it's up to you as an individual to take that information and make something of it, right? Just don't listen to it and then react to it. No. Okay, really, what is this really about? There's a deeper story here they're not really telling me because they don't have time to tell the whole story, right? They just want the flashpoints to get the views.
And they just need Americans just in fear. That's what works.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So, and
so you read the Quran. You read the Quran, and the fly wants to be in the podcast as well.
Kill this thing. Stuff a lot. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so as I'm going through all of this, things start to change. My attitude starts to change.
Mhm.
I start actually enjoy being around these people.
Hold on, time out.
Yeah.
Did you struggle with that? Like, okay, these people are killers. I've seen them in combat. I know what these people are capable of. Did you wrestle with yourself, like, why am I kind of getting sweet on these guys now? Like, why? What's going on within you? Like, did you doubt yourself, or what was going on in your mind?
Yeah, I actually started to feel a little bit like I was being a traitor.
Wow,
Which
that's
you
deep.
know is something I've been called, and when I was first called a traitor, it really hit me because I don't get hurt by people's comments. I don't, because words are words to me, man. They mean nothing.
Well, here's the thing. I think that from your standpoint. Hold on, time out. I'm a Marine. I put on a uniform for this country. I got boots on the ground in this country. You're calling me a traitor? Me.
Yeah.
You a civilian are calling me a traitor.
Exactly.
So I kind of understand, like, why would you be thinking that? I've been called a traitor as well. And I pulled out the picture of, when I was in boot. Who are you talking to, civilian? Who are you? You just came over, you're an immigrant just like me. My family came from Norway. And yeah, it kind of, I don't get hurt by people's comments either, but it's kind of like, I put in work for this country. Who the hell are you? You're calling me a traitor?
Mm-hmm.
You haven't, you've never experienced the chaos of war, the fog of war. Who are you talking to exactly? So if you could just time out and tell us how you felt as a non-Muslim at the time, not even accepting Islam, but being more present around Muslims. How did you feel when you started to feel like a traitor internally?
Well, it was a struggle internally because my heart, like I tell people, I said, for lack of a better example, let me put it to you this way: the flag was my cross because I wasn't a Christian. I was a nationalist. I believed in my country and I would die for that, right? And I was going to. That's the way I saw it. I saw it as me on a suicide mission, really, because I knew I would end up dead. And I was okay with that because that's how much I cared about that flag, that piece of cloth. And it was an internal struggle because part of me was, it was like we've seen TV shows where you got the devil and angel on each shoulder, right? And they're trying to get you to do stuff, right? And that's how I felt, right? It was just it's really hard to put into words because I did, before I was ever called a traitor, I felt like one. I felt like one.
Wow. Take us through, Mac. Take us through when you started going a little bit more to feeling like maybe I should become a Muslim. Like, what was the turning point?
So there was a lot happening. Like I said, I was reading the Quran. All right. I was reading the Quran. I was getting into it. I was researching. I just wasn't reading it like you would read a novel, right? I mean, I'm reading stuff and then I would read a surah, a chapter, and then I would go and look up information on that surah and that chapter and try to get a little bit more backstory on it, right? Try to find out the ins and outs of it. And
right.
And like I said, good and bad, positive and negative. Everybody had an equal say in this as far as I was concerned.
Did you have anybody explaining to you? Like, did you go, I don't understand Surah 9, verse 5. Did you have anybody to explain that to you in the mosque?
Well, like I said, it wasn't Ramadan yet. I was at the mosque more than most of the Muslims were.
Muslims let that sink in.
Yes. I mean, you know how it is. You come to Friday and You don't get there until actually the prayer started. I can't stand that, man. That's another story. Anyway, but yeah, I was there all the time. These guys were inviting me over to their houses, their homes, introducing me to their families. And of course, it's what they do. They feed you, right? They feed you till you're about ready to puke.
The jihad of food is how they get us, right?
Yeah. I make the joke now because Bibi Barami is the other person in this story that really played a big part, right? And her whole life is cooking. That's what she does. That's her love, right? Besides her husband, she loves nothing more. Besides her husband and her kids, she loves nothing more than cooking. Okay,
right.
And when we would go out and speak together on stage, I would always tell everybody, because I'm kind of big now, just age is set in and injuries and whatever. But I tell people I weighed 190 pounds before I went to BB's house, because she just fed me, and I used to say, man, somebody needs to report her food to the FDA. They need to look into it because she's putting something in it that is just making people nice.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love her so much, though. She is so dear to me.
Still talk to her and her family?
Oh yeah. She calls me her little brother.
MashaAllah. So what take us to the day where you accepted Islam.
So I finally made the decision that I need to be a Muslim. This is something my life needs. It's not like I want to do this because I think it's cool. It's like I was going through a lot of struggles anyway as a veteran, right? PTSD, drinking. I mean, the whole bit, man. I mean, it was out of control. I was drinking a half gallon of vodka every 2 days. Okay. And I was doing that. I did that for like 2 years straight. Right?
Hydrated the wrong way.
Man. I mean, I was killing myself slowly. Right. And, but I said, I need this in my life because this is direction that's positive, and this is direction that is going to get me out of this rut, out of this depression, right? Out of this darkness, and turn off this noise, man.
Did you ever feel in your mind think, but I'm white and I'm an American though? Like, how do I do this? Because I did the same thing. As a matter of fact, when I took my shahada, I told Omar, the guy that made dawah to me in prison, I said, I don't know if there's any white Muslims in the world, but you're going to have to make an exception for me, okay? Because I want to become a Muslim today. And they all said Allahu Akbar and laughed. But did you ever struggle with that? Because remember, this podcast is aimed at white Americans. A lot of white Americans think that they can't be Muslim. What are you talking about? That's for the brown people. That's from the Middle Eastern people. How can I, a Marine, a white person, an American, become Muslim? It's not going to be a good look with my people and the Muslims as well. Did you ever struggle with that? Because I did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if it was necessarily a struggle because I accepted it. Because I grew up in an African-American neighborhood. I was actually, this kind of tells my age, but I was in grade school in the 70s, and I grew up in Cincinnati. They were still doing desegregation in the 70s, right? Mm-hmm. I was part of desegregation because of where I lived. I was the only white kid on my school bus, right? So this was not really necessarily new to me. I didn't really have a struggle with that so much as the ignorance of people really, really annoyed me at first, because I actually had a person come up to me one time and says, dude, you can't be a Muslim. You're white. It's like, that's a rule.
Right.
And then I tell him about in the Quran where it says, no Arabs above a non-Arab, no whites above a black. And, so there is nothing like that. Yes, mm-hmm. I am one of the only, sometimes the only white person in the mosque. Yes. So what?
Me too.
Yeah. It's okay.
I think people don't look at it as, and I think this is the work of the shaitan, that at the end of the day, we are souls we don't have a choice about who, or what color of skin we are, or what ethnicity we are. These are all things given to us by God. But at the end of the day, we are souls that either disobey God or obey God. That's how I look at it.
Absolutely.
So you took your shahada on a Friday or a Jummah?
Yeah. I planned it on a Friday. I don't know, for some reason. Maybe it was ego. I don't know. I wanted everybody to know, right? But I didn't tell anybody outside of the Islamic community. Like my wife didn't even know. I was a typical husband. I didn't tell my wife nothing. Stuff a lot. Yeah. But so yeah. So this is a real funny story. So I go in there. It's like 2 months after the first day I stepped foot in that place. And I go in, I go up to two of the brothers I knew pretty well. One was a professor and one was a doctor. They both gentlemen were older than I was, and they're standing in the doorway of the prayer room. And I go up to them and said, brothers, I want to be a Muslim. I want to take Shahada today. True story. They look at me, they look at each other, they look back at me and almost simultaneously go, no.
What? Wait a minute. What?
And I was like, what? Now they don't want me. Oh, great. Now what am I going to do, right?
What the hell am I going to do now?
Yeah. And still nobody knew the actual plan that I had originally. Everybody's still very ignorant of the whole thing, right?
Amazing.
And I kind of looked at them like, why not? And one of them put their hand on my shoulder, real lovingly, and said, brother, you have a lot more to learn. Not a lie. I looked at him, I said, but don't we all? So they look back at each other, they look back at me, and they're like, all right, come on.
He's going to do it. He's just going to do it. Don't hold this guy back, man. He's going to do it.
Yeah. So it was good, man. And then
how'd you feel that day? How did you feel?
Oh man, the weight was lifted. It
really?
Yeah. I didn't even know what I was doing up there. I mean, I was saying what they told me to say, but somebody says, man, what was going on? You stuck your hands out to the side and palms up. It's like looked like one of them spiritual inflections or something, man. We didn't know what was going on with you. I said, man, I didn't even know I was doing that, man. I said, I felt a lot of relief after that, I mean, I still had stuff I had to deal with and everything, humans are humans and this is what we do. Everybody's got their own story. Everybody's got their own traumas. But for that first big step was already made for me. And the burden was gone.
Alhamdulillah. So how did your family, friends, and fellow Marines act? Or how did they react when you embraced Islam? Let's take it first about the Marines. Were they just like, Mac, what? Have you joined the enemy? Like, did you have any buddies in the Corps that you told that you were a Muslim now?
Well, so what had happened was I was in the Army now. So I joined the Marine Corps, retired from the Army. It's a long twisted tale. I spent like 8 years in the Marine Corps, and the rest was in the Army after a 2-year break in service. And really wasn't a break in service though. That was, but anyway, I'm gonna get off track. I went into where we get our dog tags made, right? The little machine that makes your dog tags and everything. On your dog tags, you got religious preference. Mm-hmm. Well, mine actually said agnostic.
Whoops.
Yeah, I just didn't care, right? I was like, yeah, there's something out there, but I don't know what it is, and I really don't even care. That was just my stance beforehand, right? So I went in and I told the guy, I said, hey man, I need to change my religious affiliation on my dog tags. So all right, Sarge says, what are we putting down? I said, you need to put down Islam. He said, okay, really?
What?
He started laughing. He said, okay, man, I know you like to joke around. So
Funny joke, Mac. Funny
what are you
joke.
going to do? And I said, brother, I said, I'm not kidding, for real. And I was very calm and very, my tone and my stature was very serious, right? And he's like, are you kidding me? That is exactly what he said. But I don't want to refrain from that kind of talk. But he says, are you kidding me? And
He's about to section H you right there.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, I was on my way out anyway at this point. You know, I'm awaiting retirement. It was a process they had to go through, basically because it was medical, and at that time there was so many people. It was so backlogged that it took them 5 years to retire me. From the point of injury to the time I retired. It took them 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was like on the injured reserve list for 5 years. And after that, it was funny because nobody ever said anything about it before that. My security clearance got pulled, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it was going to get pulled anyway. I'm surprised they hadn't done it already, but it was weird to me because it happened right at that point. And then when the word started getting around, because believe you me, the word traveled quick.
Sure it does.
And I was well known. I mean, you know, my exploits and my attitudes and my mannerisms were well known at that point. You know, my wife actually said she'd seen some things on social media, some comments on social media about me saying, yeah, I remember him. He was a real a-hole.
Right.
But so everybody was in shock, man. And they came up to me. A lot of people just distanced themselves, you know, and then there's some people I had to distance myself from because I'm a Muslim now, you know, and here we are, we're in our early 40s, man. And these guys are still out clubbing and womanizing. And I'm like, well, first and foremost, that's creepy at that age. And then I can't, you know, I'm that's not my behavior anymore. I'm out of that. Right. I don't do that. And, so, you know, we kind of just drifted apart.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of drifted apart. And, so
that happens though. That happened with me too. It's just like it drifts away.
On one side, it's sad. On the other side, it's a blessing. And I have to look at it that way, you know. I wish I had buddies with me now. We could be just old and grumpy and sit on the back porch and tell lies to each other. I really, that was my life goal, right?
Now you're talking. I like what you're saying now, man.
Yeah. So
I'll sit on the back porch with you, Mac, any day, man.
Awesome. But yeah, so that's not going to happen now, right? And it's okay because, you know, even though I am pretty much semi-retired, I'm doing things. I'm busy. You know, I'm trying to change people. I'm trying to change attitudes. I'm trying to do something right. You know, and the thing is that it's not just about Islam. It's about humanity. I'm trying to get people to come together, right? Because we got a lot of ugly things going on in the world right now. Here in America, you know, we got DC's on practically under martial law. Who knows what's going to happen with the rest of the country if this keeps up? They were talking about it today, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, we need to come together because people don't understand the power that we have. Just as just Joe Citizen, man, or Angela Citizen, we have power. Mm-hmm. We have more power than they have, but we're not going to use it because we're not afraid. We don't want to rock the boat, you know, and that's sad. That's sad, you know.
Right. Hey, Mac, let me ask you something. Mm-hmm. I want you to just visualize with me real quickly. if you just pretend somebody is, all of the people that hate Islam are watching you right now, and just say that you have a podium and a mic, and all of these people that had your mindset back in the day of Islam is the enemy, they're here to take over Islam, they're going to implement Sharia. If you could speak directly to someone or all of those people right now who sees Islam as the enemy, what would you say to them? And please take your time, because this is what the podcast is all about.
Okay.
It's aimed at white America, or America in general, America.
Right. So, there would be a lot of things. Of course, I would ask a question about how many Muslims do you know? And I wouldn't expect the answer, because there'd be an audience, but I'd say, I want you to think about something. Answer this to yourself. How many Muslims do you know? How much Islamic literature that was wrote by Muslims have you read? How can you actually tell me that your feelings are not based on what you've seen in the media? And I said, our job, our duty, our responsibility as human beings is to learn the truth. Truth is not given by word of mouth. Truth is given by an individual who looks things up, who studies, who asks questions. It's like we live in a country of sheep. I call them sheeple. There's no people here, it's sheeple. Our Creator made us to be lions, to be leaders, to be soldiers for the right, the truth. That's why we're here. Not to be followers to some cult ideas. We need to take our things back. And we can only do that by learning the truth and then standing up to the people that are actually oppressing us, that we think are actually the ones that are looking out for us. They're the ones that are oppressing us. If your problem is with Islam, study it. As a ummah in whole, we got a huge population surge after 9/11, which was really, which a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't understand that. It's because people got scared and people started researching Islam, because now they need to know where these people are coming from and what they're doing. And as they researched it, they found out that what that was all about had absolutely nothing to do with Islam. That was greed and selfishness. That's all that was, man. It had nothing to do with Islam, right? So it's like how a lot of white America looks at African Americans, like they're up to no good. They're all drug dealers or gang leaders, whatever, man.
Exactly.
Because of one or two that they know of that actually work.
And I think you could apply the same. I think you could apply the same question. How many black people do you know in real life? Do you have any black friends? Have you ever interacted with them? And most of them will say, "No, what I see on TV and the media is enough." What? Really?
Yeah. See, that's not it. It's like if you feel that way about African Americans, it's only fair. It's only fair then that we're looked at as white Americans to be all Klan members.
Right. Totally fair.
It's only fair.
Yep.
Right. And that's ludicrous. It's hard to even say that with a straight face, right? Because no, we're not. And it's like, as I've been told many times, as growing up, not all people are bad. When you put a race or an ethnicity or a religion, not all people are bad, right? That fall into those categories. And I'll be honest with you, we can just look at the statistics: mass murders, domestic terrorism, white people. Now, there's been a few sprinkle of color here and there. Okay, I got you. But
school shooters, active shooters, white.
All white people. Yeah.
There's a funny story, Mac, that I want to tell you about that. Kind of ties into my question of getting to know people, actually sitting down with them, because I can tell, and I'm pretty sure that you're not afraid of any human being on this planet, and you're not afraid of asking questions. I've always been somebody like that. Even if you're my enemy, even if I don't like you, what I'm not going to do is just talk behind your back. I'm going to say, hey, man, what are you all about, man? I want to know. Now, let's just get this over with, man. Let's have a conversation. And that happened to me maybe 12 years ago. I had a job where I would always walk in, and the front door was facing the desks. And there was this guy named Ken. He was a white guy. And when I would walk in all the time, he would just look at me like, he just mad dogged me. And I just thought, why is this guy always mad dogging me? And he never smiles. He never talks to me. He makes that one eye contact in the morning. Excuse me. And then he's off doing his thing. So me being me, I came up to his desk and one morning and I said, hey, Ken, I notice every single time that I come in the morning, you gotta look for me, a certain look that you always do. Now, I don't want to cause a problem. I just want to know what's going on. Do you have a problem, or I don't want this to turn into physical, but if we can talk it through, that's what I want to do. And he said, you know what? Yeah, F it. I'm just going to say it. I heard that you're a Muslim. Is that true? And I said, yeah, it is true. He said, well, yeah, you're this, and he went on this whole tirade about, you're white, you're American, you betrayed your religion, you left your religion, you're not loyal to your country anymore, blah, 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 blah. And I said, look, Ken, and don't take this as an invitation to anything else, but I would like to meet you in the parking lot after work and answer and talk about any question that you have about Islam. And he looked at me and he said, you don't want to know the questions that I got for you. And I turned around to him and I said, Ken, I already know every single question that you're going to ask.
Yeah.
Hurt my feelings. Try to hurt my feelings. It's just not going to happen. Ken, honestly, I'm interested in more of you being enlightened and getting the information that you need from a Muslim, a real Muslim, rather than what you see on the media. Because you can tell just talking to him for the 5 minutes that I was talking to him, he was lost. He had no interest. My American media told me this and 1, 2, 3, and that's the way it is. And why would Fox News lie? Why? That's a patriotic media outlet. And why would they lie to us Americans? And I just thought, holy crap. Holy crap, really? And so we met in the parking lot after. And he said, remember, Ali, you told me that you're not going to get mad. I don't want any physical problem with you or anything. We both work together. I said, no. Ask the questions. First question out the box. Why do you hate Jesus? But we laugh at that. But there's American citizens that are going to watch this podcast and they're going to think, yeah, why do they hate Jesus? There's people that really don't know. But when you have conversations with people that you have a problem with, whether they be black people or white people or Muslims or Jews or whoever, you get the truth from them and you get to see the humanity from them. I find out. That's what I find. And so, why do you want to take over America? Question came out and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, he left. We started that conversation with him being completely ignorant. And I mean, with a capital I, capital G, capital N, whole way across the word. And he left the conversation and you could see the difference in his face. Like, Wow, I didn't know that. And so the next day that I came in to the office, this look turned into, hey, Ali, good morning. And it turned into, I got some more questions. I'll meet you in the parking lot after work. And so we went through this whole thing. I wished he would have become a Muslim, but he didn't, right? But the last time, because I left the company, the last time he came up to me, our last conversation, he said, Ali, I got to talk to you. Boy, I got mad at my uncle the other day. I was telling him about what you were saying about Islam, and he said, oh, they're all terrorists, and they're all bad people, and they're all out to get us and everything. And Ken said, but you know what, Ali? I stood up for Islam, and he wasn't even a Muslim. And I told him, wait a minute. I know this guy named Ali. I work with him. You don't know anything about Islam. You don't know anything about Muslims. You don't know anything about the Quran. I do. I have conversations, real conversations with my coworker, Ali, and you don't know anything. And I was just like, here is a non-Muslim sticking up for Islam while not being an adherent to the Islamic religion. And that's what I feel that we have to do, especially towards white America. I'm white, you're white, and I find that our ethnic background is not too receptive to Islam because they believe it's a brown person's religion. They believe that I won't fit in. And I'm saying Russia, 25 million Muslims. Okay? Bosnia, millions of Muslims. Albania, millions of Muslims. We can go on and on and on and name the countries one by one. But my point is, Islam is for everybody. Mm-hmm. Islam is not the enemy religion of America. If we actually believe in the Constitution of America and equality and liberty that our forefathers set forth, over 250 years ago, then we have to see people, I think, for who they are. And so that anybody is watching this podcast, I would say, if you don't understand Muslims, go to the mosque like Richard did. Go to the mosque. Ask questions. I can promise you, to the white nationalist that is watching this program, this podcast, you are not going to be arrested or attacked once you open up the door to the mosque. We are people, whether we are Arab or Pakistani or white or African American, people that want to answer your questions. If you believe that we are terrorists or we are plotting Sharia law, we want those questions. Feel free to come to the mosque. Feel free to stop somebody with a kufi on his head like my brother Mac is wearing on his head right now and ask him, hey, man, I got to be honest with you, Mac. I got a problem with you. I got a problem with Muslims. I don't understand y'all. We are waiting, literally waiting for those conversations to happen like I had with Ken. I'm sure that you've had many conversations with American citizens about this is what the podcast is all about. And that's what I want to get into, Islam is for everybody. So if you met somebody like Ken, let me rephrase that. If you met somebody like you back in the day that is fresh off the C-130 back home, mm-hmm. and has seen the chaos of war and have seen people trying to kill them, defending their own land, no less, sure. But still they see the, I don't know what a way to put this, the ass end of war is what I'm going to say, the ass end of war, mm-hmm. Terrible chaos of war. And then they come back and they see, my doctor's a Muslim. My doctor's a Muslim. My kids go to school with these Muslim people. Now there's politicians that are Muslim. This Zoran Mamdani guy in New York. It seems like these people are being pushed to the forefront. What is happening to America? What's going on with America? Why are these people halal restaurants? What the hell, man? Why are these people halal restaurant, halal grocery store? I see them all over the place. What's happening to America? What would you say to those type of people to neutralize their ignorance in 60 seconds?
Okay. I'll try to do this. So yeah, I had a guy one time come up to me and get in my face and say all kinds of nasty things, and I said, "Where did you get your information from, man?" I said, "No, this is just what I know." I said, "Oh, now this was in the early days before I really learned how to speak to people. Right? I was still my old self in a lot of ways." And I said, "Oh, my bad. I didn't know you were an idiot." and then he'd be like, "What'd you say?" I said, "Listen, brother, be a man. Be a man. Men are like ships. They're not worried about the water that's around them. They need to be worried about the water that gets in them, because that water that gets in them might be poison. And it sounds to me like you got some poison in you. You need to find the truth for yourself, not for me, not for him or her, for you. And you can only do that by your own actions, by your own struggles, and finding this information, not from Fox News, not from CNN, not from news in general, because that was me. That was cultural Islam. And once you figure out what Islam truly is, you'll understand what I mean by cultural Islam.
Okay. This I might have another question, but let's do this one. When people hear your story, what do you want them to take away about Islam and about second chances in life?
I have to refer back to a comment that I got. This is one of the original comments that I'd ever gotten. And I do look at comments. My producers told me, "Don't do that, man. They'll drive you crazy." I said, "No, I need to know, man. I need to know what people think." And yeah, a lot of ugliness. And then I got to one comment. And this guy said, very colorfully, he used to talk, he talks the way I used to, let's put it that way. There's a lot of descriptive words in his speech. But basically, let's just give the Cliff Notes G version of it. And he says, if a tough guy like you can change the way he thinks about things, I guess I can too. And that's what sums up my whole action. You know, if something I say or something I do causes somebody to become a Muslim, alhamdulillah, but that's not what I'm here for. That's not it. I'm looking to bring us together, because just like a fist, you know, like this, we're a good tool. We can do a lot of things like this, but if you want to be strong, you got to come together, you know? And I really need to work on a different analogy, because I'm not looking at this in a violent, I'm not trying to portray this in a violent way, but it's the truth. That's strong. You can't break this, right? And that's what I'm here for, to unite Muslim, Christian, Jew, Arab, non-Arab, American, Mexican. It doesn't matter, man. It really doesn't matter.
How do we do that, Mac? How do we do that? Like, does it start with podcast? Is it real conversations in the street?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. All of that. But even before that, like I tell people, and I actually started writing a book about my journey out of hatred, right? And one of the key things, one of the first things that needs to be done is when you're confronted with hatred, smile and have a conversation. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of change right there. Now, is that 100% guaranteed? No, it's not. Because you know, people are involved in all kinds of variables. Okay. You don't know what that person's been through earlier in the day. He might have just learned out that his wife's dying or something like that. I mean, you know, you don't know, right? So maybe at this point you're not changing anything, but you have planted a seed, because he will come back to this time. He will come back to this, and it'll make him think. And that's how you win. That's how you get us to work together, because we got to stop hating each other. We got to stop wanting more than our neighbors. You know, stop. You know, you don't need a multi-million-dollar mansion. You don't need the most expensive sports car on the market. You know, you don't need a vacation to float around the world. You don't need those things.
Mm-hmm.
In all actuality, you only need two things: air, or three things: air, water, and food. Everything else is a want. I mean, of course, clothes kind of fit into that, but you know, that's
Yeah,
not
you don't
actually,
want to be
that's
walking
actually
around
not
naked.
what,
That's against the law.
you don't need that to survive, right? You don't need that to survive. If you don't have it, you might want to hide, but you don't need it to survive, right? So you know, so I come up. There's a code. There's actually a code to success in life. 4-digit code.
What's that code?
2434.
That's it. Salah.
Salah. 2, 4, 3, and 4. That's it.
You know, I look at it, Mac, as we Muslims believe in qadr, that everything happens good or bad for a reason. And I've said this in many of my videos and my TikTok videos, that every Muslim, and this is where I want the viewers to really, really pay attention, because a lot of us say, well, I'm not a da'i like you, Maliki Click. I don't have 700,000 people following me on TikTok. It doesn't matter.
No.
And I'll tell you why. If you're a Muslim and you believe in qadr or predestination, anybody that comes in your life, and I mean, you're at the gas station, filling your tank, you're at the grocery store, you're at university, you're at your jobs, you're walking down the street, you're passing somebody while you're doing your morning jog. It is none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has put that person in your path. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has put people, like it's like almost like we're all actors in a giant movie on earth, and we're all playing our roles. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts somebody in your path, how do you act as a Muslim?
Yeah.
So when you get the tough questions, you know, like what I got, and I'm sure you got questions too from people, you answer them. You don't make it personal. And I want every Muslim to know that is watching this, that whoever you think you are or you aren't, the world, and I need everybody to pay attention, the world is watching you, no matter who you are. Everybody is listening to you. Everybody is reading your social media post. And I don't mean that they're spying on you.
No.
They are gauging, who are these people? Who are they? I want to know. I don't like them. I don't like these people, to be honest with you. And when I see this guy and this woman and the way they dress and everything, they're going to have questions. But at the end of the day, if they don't ask the questions, they're still going to be looking at you. They're still going to be watching us. So I put something in the mind of a lot of Muslims when I say this. If you believe in qadr, a destination that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes everybody to cross your path, that you cross your path with in your life, you could be the reason why those people that are watching you and listening to you, that you revile them away from Islam or you attract them to Islam. It's you. You do that. And you do that without standing up on a pulpit on Friday saying, Inna alhamdulillah, nahmadu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh. People, they're not going to see that.
Right.
What white Americans see, what white Europeans see is us. They see me. They see Mac with a kufi on his head. They see the hijab. They see the dish dash or the thobes, you know, walking down the street. But they pay attention to who we are. And before the questions happen, the curiosity has to be there. So if, for example, you're at work and you're minding your own business, your name is Muhammad, and you're just an IT guy, and you're, you know, pounding away on your keyboard all day long, people are going to see who you are as a person. Oh, that Muhammad, he he leaves for work early on a Friday, and he cheats, and I think he's got a girlfriend on the side, and whatever. He smokes cigarettes, and I think I saw him at a club on Saturday, and he was doing that, and he was with a woman that wasn't his wife. People see that.
Yeah.
And people make decisions upon who you are and who you aren't. So I just want to make everything clear to the audience that people are going to watch you. So start acting like people are watching you, and not in a spy sense, but take the opportunity in that path, that destiny, the predestination that Allah has created for you, to look at it as an opportunity and bring people towards Islam. If you don't bring people towards Islam, at least minimum, represent Islam the way it needs to be represented. Be a Muslim 24 hours a day, from when you open your eyes in the morning until you lay your head on the pillow. Represent Islam. Talk like a Muslim. Move like a Muslim. Do business like a Muslim. Talk to people like a Muslim. And that's, I think, in my opinion, which comes before the questions of, shot to us, that comes before anything. Because if you're not worth talking to, Mac, I don't want to talk. Look, if you act just like me and you cuss and you drink and you womanize, why would I want to be a Muslim? I'm already doing that as a Christian.
Yeah,
I'm already doing that as an atheist, as an agnostic. I don't need your religion to act like a fool like you. I'm already a fool. so it's like we have to, you know what I'm saying? We have to represent Islam on this podcast. But I'm going to go do some errands after the podcast. It's like, as soon as I don't know about you, but as soon as I get in my car and I go out of my garage, to me, I hear lights, camera, action. The camera's on me. People are watching me. My neighbors are watching me. I am the only Muslim in my neighborhood. I live in a affluent gated community, and I get some looks, but when I get those looks, hey neighbor, how you doing?
Yeah.
My name's Ali. And then when I open up, because they see my wife walking around with the hijab,
Sure.
So they know I'm Muslim. So when I say, hey man, how you doing? How you doing, neighbor? Their look turns into, oh, hey, I don't believe we met. My name's Ted. Hey, I'm Ali. How you doing? And I walk over there, and I'm not afraid of having a conversation with anybody. Sure. And so when you break that barrier, my neighbors, for one, are like, that guy's okay. They see me mowing my lawn, and they see me mowing my lawn and edging my lawn up, and keeping my house tip top, and my kids and everything else. And they might see me doing my boxing routine in my garage because I got a speed bag and a heavy bag. And
okay,
that guy's an American. He's an American. I don't care if he's a Muslim. He's not running around, doing this and that. And he's actually a good person. And I get people coming up to my garage sometimes, especially my across the street neighbor. It would just have conversations, and he'll ask me about anything. And sometimes he won't ask me about Muslim, Islamic questions, but you can tell he's trying to gauge me.
Right.
America, media, where are you at? And Muslims, you should never be afraid of voicing your opinions, because that's the American way. We don't have to agree on everything. But number one, I'm not a threat. That's what I want to convey to you right now. I'm not a threat. I put on a uniform from this country. My wife is not from America originally. My kids are mixed, and that's okay. That's fine. But at the end of the day, Mac, it all starts with conversations, and it all starts with knowing that everybody's watching you. So that's probably the most important part that I want to convey to the audience. Before we close out, Mac, I want to ask you about your life, what you got going. Is there any books? Is there any memoirs of Mac? Is there a YouTube channel that you have, or a website that you have? Feel free to just tell us all about what you're doing.
Yeah, so if you want to find me on social media, just put in my name, Richard Mac McKinney. You'll come up with everything, because off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you web addresses and stuff like that. I can't, I got a TikTok. It's been very successful. I got over 10,000 views on my last post talking about racism, you know? So, and also Josh Seftel was the producer of my documentary, a Jewish guy, which that's how a Jewish guy gave me my platform as a Muslim. So let's think about that one. Okay.
Think about it.
Our enemy's not Judaism. Our enemy's Zionism. It's the difference.
Totally.
But he's actually getting ready to release a documentary that he just made. I want to give him a shout out. It's on school shootings, and I cannot wait till it comes out. Very, very. It's a subject we need to talk about. And he just finished up the documentary. He's getting ready to release it. I do not remember the name of it. I'm so sorry, but look up Josh Seftel, and I'm sure you'll find it.
Well, Matt, go back to your documentary, because a lot of our viewers don't know that you actually had a movie made about you, a real documentary. What's its name?
Yes.
What is it about, and where can they find it, and how can they support you?
So the name of the documentary is called Stranger at the Gate. You can find it on YouTube. Just put in Stranger at the Gate. It was actually 2 years ago. It was actually nominated for an Academy Award. I actually went to the Oscars.
Awesome.
Really? Was I out of place?
I can just imagine that.
But I was there. And but yeah, it's 30 minutes long. 30 minutes out of your day. Just give it a look-see. It's my story about not a lot of people think it's a conversion story, but I tell you, if you watch this and you go away, you walk away from it saying it's a conversion story, watch it again.
It's not. I've watched it, and it's not.
Yes, that's a part of the story. That is not the story.
It's kind of a journey through your mind and how you thought and where you were at, and then it goes to, what's her name, BB, talking about how they saw you. So there's multiple perspectives on your life and how people saw you, and when they saw you first come into the mosque. So I watched that personally. It's a really, really good documentary, guys. What I want you to do is go watch that Stranger at the Gate.
Yes.
Stranger at the Gate. And not only that, what I need you to do is share that on your social media, on your TikTok, duet it, whatever you have to do, because we really have to. If you haven't been here the whole time, we're aiming this straight at white America, not as a challenge, but as here's who we are. We want to introduce ourselves. There's white Muslims. We're here. We're not going anywhere. There's nothing in the Constitution that say that we can't be Muslims or propagate the Islamic religion. So you can take that. Why don't you go back home, put it in a box, throw it in the bottom of the sea, whatever you want to do with it. We're not going anywhere, period. We're Americans, all of us, no matter what skin color we are. So watch this video, because I think white Americans, and I don't think that this is racist at all, but white Americans need to hear the story from other white Americans. This was one of the things that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do. He used to give dawah to certain tribes, and the tribal leader would go back to their people. And so a lot of the times people, especially white Americans, they feel more comfortable with other white Americans. And although Mac and myself are very strange to them, and sometimes they look at us like traitors, they would want to listen more to our stories than anybody else. And that's just what it is. Call it what you want. That's just what it is. So Mac's story is amazing. It needs to be, this guy was actually going to go the whole mile and put together an IED and complete his mission. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just took him a different direction. And this is the direction that we have to cut off with a lot of white Americans that are, in the Trump camp, or I don't even think politics has anything to do with ignorance. You can be ignorant, you can be on the left,
Oh, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to get Mac's story out there. So make sure that you watch this. Like you said, don't expect like a conversion story. We have tons of those. This is way, way, way more than what you think it is. and this is his whole documentary is what a lot of America is going through right now at this point of we got to do something about these Muslims in this country. Who are they though? And so when they watch Mac, they're like, I don't like it. I don't like him, but I'm starting to understand. I'm starting to turn the pages of his life and seeing why, at least from my own people. Why did you do this, Mac? And that, inshallah, will open up more conversations with other people that he's not used to talking to. So maybe he might be at the grocery store and see a Muslim guy, a brown Muslim guy, and say, how you doing, man? And just strike up a conversation. That's the way it happens, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So Mac,
they're also working on, so they're putting together, Josh is also working with with an actor in his camp, because they're putting together, or they're trying to, I'm trying to tell you about it without telling you about it, because there's only so much I could say about it. But they're putting together a movie
exclusive,
like one of those based on true events kind of movies.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So that's what they're doing. They're working with an actor who actually stated that he wanted to play me in the movie, and they're working with his people and trying to get the writers. And so, yeah, I mean, that's in the works. Inshallah, we'll see what happens with that.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. But I worry about that too, because I know in order to get people to watch it, you're going to have to make it a little Hollywood. I think we had already talked about a couple things Hollywood that they tried to do in the documentary, but it didn't even go into play. But yeah, and I don't want that. But I understand I'm going to have to give a little bit of leeway in that, so people will watch it. I mean,
you have to. Let's be honest. You have to.
Yeah. I just don't want to be made out to be some kind of like Rambo or, super soldier or something like that, man. I don't want, no. But I know what you mean. Yeah, the guy who wants to play me has been very much an action hero kind of guy. So we'll see what happens. I don't know.
I mean, maybe you can be on set and be like an advisory type of, hey, man, pull back a little bit. I'm not a super soldier, man. Just pull back a little bit. Yeah.
And that's something. Yeah, Josh has guaranteed me that I will be part of the process, so it's okay. So yeah,
that's awesome.
So, yeah,
sounds like you have a really big opportunity to change some things in America, perspectives.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm just I'm still trying to get some opportunities to travel and speak. That's really it. I open myself up to anybody and everybody that wants to, might want to have me come speak. More than happy to come speak.
I was going to ask you, where can people contact you to book you? Maybe they want you to tell their story at a Friday prayer or something like that. Where can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, November 7th, inshallah, I'm supposed to give the khutbah down at my original mosque down in Muncie.
Wow.
Yeah, so
the one that you plan to bomb.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I love that.
And I did end up president of that very mosque. Actually, yeah, I really did. It was 2 years after that, but yeah, I did become the president.
What a plot change! A plot change!
But
so like an email? Is there an email that people can say, I'm going to book this guy right now?
Yeah. It's From Hate to Understanding, all one word. From Hate to Understanding.
From Hate to Understanding at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Just shoot me a message, and we can talk. Give me your name, number, and I will give you a call. I'm unemployed right now, so I'm not doing anything. So
he's got time.
Yeah,
he's got time, and he ain't afraid of flying. So
no,
book him. Well, let's close out. To the person that's on the fence about us, I think that we've made a very fair case. We are American citizens that put on a uniform for this country, we are not trying to take over this country. We are not trying to implement Sharia law. Sharia law is illegal in the United States of America, and we Muslims are okay with that. We're not here to take over your school systems. We are not here to take over your or change your culture. You have to understand something about Muslims and Islam. Islam is a theology. If I was born and raised in the South, and I'm not, but I live in the South, to be a Muslim doesn't mean that you have to dress like Lawrence of Arabia. Okay, it doesn't. You don't lose your culture. Islam is not here to make you wear turbans on your head. Islam is here to change how you worship God, to change how your morality code. So if you're an American, I want you to know that Islam is for you. It's a theology. If you wear a cowboy hat and cowboy boots, do it, man. There's nothing in Islam that says that you have to abandon your culture and LARP or cosplay as an Arab or a Pakistani or whatever. It is a theology, and we're not here to challenge you for the leadership of America. I think I speak for a lot of Muslims when I say this. Number one, we just want you to, we want to understand each other. That's it. That's the main thing. And I want you to feel really free and welcome to come up to any Muslim, or like a Muslim like me, white American, or like Mac, and ask us questions. Don't be afraid, because we would rather get a tap on the shoulder and say, hey, man, I saw you on that podcast the other day. You said that I can ask you questions, so I got a couple of questions for you.
Absolutely.
We have to be able to do the work, and the people that are, from Pakistani background or Arab or African or whatever watching, you have to be prepared too. We as Muslims in America have to stop sitting on the bench of life and watching everything go past us. We have to be proactive and tell our story. If we don't tell our story, they're going to tell our story. People like Mac back in the day are going to tell our story for us and tell us that, tell American citizens that, yeah, we are the problem. Yeah, when they come to this country, they do this, that, and the third. And yeah, they are the problem. And we need to get these people out of politics as well. And we need to get them out of our school systems and everything else. So that comes with a caveat. If we are not proactive in our own dawah, in our own really humanity, because remember, to the people that are watching the show, they barely think that we are humans. They think that we are violent machines, oppressive women beaters, that we are here to control and conquer. That is what a lot of people think. And if you never have a conversation with a Muslim, that's what you will think. So we have a lot of work to do. It's kind of like, as Muslims, as 2 billion people on this planet, if you remember the Cosby Show, that was one of my favorite shows back in the day, the Cosby Show. And what I always say this, I'm always talking about the Cosby Show. People in the 80s in America were having racial problems with African Americans. And they had prejudices. And they believed what they saw on the news about black people. Oh, they're always doing this, they're always doing that, and I'd stay away from black people. Until the Cosby Show invited white America into its living room and said, we're going to tell our story. Here's what we go through as African Americans. We're just like you. Mm-hmm. We have problems with our kids. They challenge us. They rebel. We have problems with our marriages. Here's our story in color on your color TV in your living room. We're not coming into your living room physically, but here's our story. And I'm always asking myself the question, we have money, we have organizations, we have 2 billion Muslims on the planet. Where's our Cosby Show? Where is our Cosby Show? Yeah. Where is our Cosby Show? And since we are not proactive, other people that are not Muslim are picking the slack up, and instead of us telling our story, they are weaponizing against Muslims. They are creating this narrative of, for example, there's this show. It seems like anytime that they do a show and they want to make the Muslims look bad or needy or whatever, it's always the Muslim girl that comes from Iraq and she enters the Western school system, and then this handsome, blonde, blue-haired Christian guy comes to her and liberates her. You know, he speaks to her in the hallway. Oh, you're so beautiful. Why do you need to take that, put that hijab on? Why don't you take it off? And you're in America now. And so they portray this white blonde-haired, blue-eyed savior, when a lot of the times that's not the case, man. It's disgusting, man. You know, a lot of the times it's the other way around, honestly, in the school systems. But my whole point, if we don't tell that story, if we don't start to put money down, so if there's any movie producers, I'm willing to work with you, and I know Mac is, to tell our story. We'll do short films. We'll do whatever we have to do. But anything, Muslims, put your money down. Put it where your mouth is. We live in a different time where stories are told not on the minbar. A lot of the times, they're told on camera with short films. They're told in movies. Movies are highly where they espouse this propaganda, right? And people are affected emotionally by a lot of movies, you know,
right.
especially military movies, where they make themselves always to be the hero, right? And so I really want to encourage people that are watching this to let's get our funds together. This is not crazy what I'm saying. People do it all the time. People do it on a budget. People do short films for $5,000. You know, where we can tell an amazing story about our experience as a Muslim. And I think that more than anything, white America needs to see white American Muslim stories, what we go through as well as converts to Islam, and how we try to look for our place in Islam. There's so many episodes, man, that we could, create behind this.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to happen. So, Mac, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. And I look forward to maybe another episode where we talk about something more zeroed in on something topic-based. But it's been a joy.
Just let me know.
Jazakallah khair, man. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you.